But I think that the influence which finally determined the character of my detective stories, and incidentally the character of John Thorndyke, operated when I was working at the Westminster Ophthalmic Hospital. There, I used to take the patients into the darkroom, examine their eyes with the ophthalmoscope, estimate the errors of refraction, and construct an experimental pair of spectacles to correct those errors. When a perfect correction had been arrived at, the formula for it was embodied in a prescription which was sent to the optician who made the permanent spectacles. Now, when I was writing those prescriptions, it was borne in on me that in many cases, especially the more complex, the formula for the spectacles, and consequently the spectacles themselves, furnished an infallible record of personal identity. If, for instance, such a pair of spectacles should have been found in a railway carriage, and the maker of those spectacles could be found, there would be practically conclusive evidence that a particular person had travelled by that train. About that time, I drafted out a story based on a pair of spectacles, which was published some years later under the title of The Mystery of 31 New Inn, and the construction of that story determined, as I have said, not only the general character of my future work, but of the hero around whom the plots were to be woven. But that story remained for some years in cold storage. My first published detective novel was The Red Thumb Mark, and in that book we may consider that John Thorndyke was born. And in passing on to describe him, I may as well explain how and why he came to be the kind of person that he is. I may begin by saying that he was not modelled after any real person. He was deliberately created to play a certain part, and the idea that was in my mind was that he should be such a person as would be likely and suitable to occupy such a position in real life. As he was to be a medico-legal expert, he had to be a doctor and a fully trained lawyer. On the physical side, I endowed him with every kind of natural advantage. He is exceptionally tall, strong, and athletic because those qualities are useful in his vocation. For the same reason, he has acute eyesight and hearing, and considerable general manual skill, as every doctor ought to have. In appearance, he is handsome and of an imposing presence, with a symmetrical face of the classical type and a Grecian nose. And here I may remark that his distinguished appearance is not merely a concession to my personal taste, but is also a protest against the monsters of ugliness whom some detective writers have evolved. These are quite opposite to natural truth. In real life, a first-class man of any kind usually tends to be a good-looking man. Mentally, Thorndyke is quite normal. He has no gifts of intuition or other supernatural mental qualities. He is just a highly intellectual man of great and varied knowledge, with exceptionally acute reasoning powers, and endowed with that invaluable asset, a scientific imagination. By a scientific imagination, I mean that special faculty which marks the born investigator, the capacity to perceive the essential nature of a problem before the detailed evidence comes into sight. But he arrives at his conclusions by ordinary reasoning, which the reader can follow when he has been supplied with the facts, though the intricacy of the train of reasoning may at times call for an exposition at the end of the investigation. Thorndyke has no eccentricities or oddities which might detract from the dignity of an eminent professional man, unless one accepts an unnatural liking for trichinopoly cheroots. In manner he is quiet, reserved, and self-contained, and rather markedly secretive, but of a kindly nature, though not sentimental, and addicted to occasional touches of dry humour. That is how Thorndyke appears to me. As to his age, when he made his first bow to the reading public, he was between 35 and 40. As that was 30 years ago, he should now be over 65. But he isn't. If I have to let him, quote, grow old along with me,